everyone. Welcome. My name is Michaela Bowling, and I'm the co founder of Brilliant Marketing. And really excited for today. We're going to be talking about the missing piece to your B2B sales and marketing strategy, which is research. We have our amazing senior strategist at Brilliant Marketing and the CEO of the Frause Group, Bob Frause, here with us today. He's owned multiple marketing and PR agencies and knows firsthand how important research is to the success of any company or organization. And so, what we're going to be talking about today and touching on are some examples of a successful and failed campaigns and how research is a part of that, what happens after research is complete, and how to know when to invest in research. But first, I'd love, Bob, for you to tell us a little bit about you and your career, where you're from, all the above.
Really, thanks, Michaela. So I'm Bob Frause, an accredited public relations practitioner and also a fellow in the organization Public Relations Society of America and the CEO of the Frause Group. And I started almost 50 years ago, I guess, in PR, doing a lot of things, working for a lot of different companies, but I began my career as an account executive with a firm here in Seattle, Mary, Kelvin, and Baker. Subsequently, they sold to a international firm of Hill and Knowlton. And as I mentioned, I provided marketing counsel, communications, and public relations to a variety of clients for a long time. I was also lucky enough to be part of the DDB organization and have had some memorable clients, including Skanska, the international construction firm, McKinstry, Mortensen Construction, United Airlines, Procter & Gamble, the EPA, University of Maryland, Starbucks, REI, Walmart. Enough of that. A lot of good clients, and they were all fun to work on too. And I'm part of my, I guess, cultural upbringing was I was Jesuit trained as an ethical communicator and morally sound business strategist at Seattle University, my alma mater, and I have a BA in journalism from CLU. After college, I became an officer in the United States Army, ROTC, of course, during Vietnam, and rose to the rank of captain. In addition to my heading up the Frause Group, I was also just recently the global chairman of PROI Worldwide, the professional's largest network of independent PR agencies. So with regard to this video and this take on research, I've been lucky enough to lead teams and create successful communication campaigns for B2B clients, and especially in the AEC sector, which is architecture, engineering, and construction. You'll hear more about that in a little bit. Also in the environmental area too. I think we had a variety of environmental clients, and research was always a major component of what should we do, how should we spend the public's money, and and then with regard to B2B companies, brand perception research, using qualitative research techniques is always a big factor in us helping clients assess their current brand image. I think, you could do research using quantitative methods, but I always prefer to take the quantitative results and then test them with qualitative, which would be specific questions to clients themselves, as well in an internal manner, as well as external forces, to find out exactly how people view somebody's current brand. And that's called a brand image, and not to be confused with brand identity, which essentially is what you want people to think about your company and your brand. And what people think and what you want, there's a big delta in there, and that's where the execution of meaningful marketing programs and communication programs will help you get from point X to point Y.
Yeah, that's such a good point. The difference between brand identity and brand image, and I love that. What you want as a company and what you want to be known for may not be what you actually are known for because of certain factors that are going on. So I really love that distinction there. Well, Bob, you have such a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's been so fun to work with you over the past few years as a consultant with Brilliant Marketing. We've gotten to work on some fun projects. But one of the things that we always hear when we work with B2B companies, they come to Brilliant Marketing and we help them optimize their marketing and branding some way. And the common problems that we've talked about that they come to us for is, they want to know what marketing channels to prioritize, if their branding and messaging is hitting the mark, and if it isn't, why. And then, or they want to kind of develop a specific campaign around a new service or product that they have. And the first thing that we ask them when they come to us is, do you have any research on your market or on your audience? And the answer is usually no. And so when we say we need to do that research on their audience, on their market, they oftentimes push back and say, we already know who our audience is, we already know our market. And so, you being in the industry so long and knowing the importance of research, what would you tell someone like that? Like, what's kind of your rebuttal for that?
Well, the rebuttal is, I think research is the foundation of any good execution, any good marketing plan, B2B strategies out there. You really don't know. I mean, it's easy to say, well, let's just create a plan. But if you don't really know what the factors are out there that might influence it with regard to either positive or negative influences, research is important. And I always tell clients that ask that question, don't skimp on research. And there's secondary research that you could go with and have somebody at your firm go in and do some, but to do primary research is really important because it's the base of everything. There's 4 steps to successful outcomes: research, planning, execution, and measurement. Yeah. And all of those 4 items are the key to doing a really well thought out plan, and then to see if it worked. That's the measurement part. People try to cheap out on research, but I would recommend against it because the most successful plans, the most successful things that have happened are due to really solid research. It really helps in the marketing sales environment. Most companies think they already know where they are, but if you're not number one, then you want to be number one. And so how do you get to be number one? Yeah. And one of the things that we always ask companies to sort of start with is, what is your key unfair business advantage, your key unfair, key competitive advantage? What do you do? What do you offer to your customers that nobody else does? What are your key opportunities for business growth? And most people think they don't need research, but trust me, it really helps if you know where you're headed, because once you have the information at hand, it's easy to see how to create programs that may want to get you from what your current image is to your current to the identity that you wish to be. And that could be a corporate identity, or it could be identity for the products and services that you're delivering as well.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
One other key point here is that it's one thing to do it internally, but it's another thing to have a third party company or firm that can provide that kind of honest response, and you're going to get a lot more solid research from people that don't think that you're just doing this to enhance your brand.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and often why we ensure and make sure that there's a third party like us or some other firm that's coming in and giving that. So, okay, Bob, I have a question for you. How many clients do you think that you've worked with over the course of your career?
Well, I don't really know, but I think it's somewhere over 400, 300 to 400, something like that.
Wow.
And this would be all the way from one-off small clients to pretty big organizations.
That is so wild. That's really cool. So in those 300 to 400 clients in your years of working with them, what would you say are kind of the differences between maybe a company who takes research pretty seriously and does quite a bit of research versus one who maybe doesn't value that and doesn't infiltrate that into their marketing and sales?
I think that well, from my point of view, to starting out, most company campaigns that rely on in-house knowledge or the best secondary research may succeed despite the lack of formal research. But I think you're just rolling the dice on that. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on a campaign on the execution, or you hopefully would be spending some money on the execution. Why take a shot in the dark when you really can have actually good information that's going to help you develop the right kind of plan, execute it, and then measure it to see how it went at the end of the day. That measurement will allow you to readjust sort of your program, your campaigns, and move forward. It really makes great sense. And it really works well too.
Yeah, that's great. I love the image of like rolling a dice. Like you can have great creative and all of that, but if you don't really have the research to back it, you're kind of taking a shot in the dark. Yeah. So do you have any specific examples of research that has informed really good strategies at some of the companies that you've worked with?
Well, we've got a lot. One that comes to mind, though, is a firm by the name of Skanska. A lot of people may be aware of. They're one of the largest international construction companies in the world. They're headquartered in Sweden. We were lucky enough to represent them here in Seattle after they purchased a construction company. And, essentially their brand was unknown. And we worked to make the crossover between what people thought of the old brand and the new one, and well, the new owner. And so one of Skanska's acquisition strategies was to buy companies around the United States to build up their building division and their civil division. Mm-hmm. And so the problem was that not a lot of people in the industry really were aware of what Skanska was doing. So we essentially used qualitative research capabilities to develop brand consolidations among their message and common messaging between their building, civil, infrastructure development divisions. And we did this not only just in the Seattle area, but we did it nationally for them, which ended up being a lot more than just, fill out a survey monkey or quantitative research. We called probably 300 key players in those arenas throughout the U.S., public officials, other, developers that were thinking about building buildings, just to find out where Skanska's brand fell and how their brand added up, or was it growing with regard to people's perception of the company that they just purchased. And all of that helped them steer their marketing communication activities, not only in Seattle, but throughout their offices throughout the country. And I think it really drove a really good, now their brand is pretty ubiquitous. They also have a development division that just goes out there and builds their own structures on their dime. So I think they've come a long way, and we helped them get there.
Wow, that's super impressive. How was it doing 300 phone calls? That is a lot.
Well, we divided up the list. I had 10 account people with their list, and they had to call them up. And the survey question was about 20 minutes long. So it took us almost a month to do 300 calls, but we did. And then a lot of them, essentially people aren't there. You got to make appointments. And it's a lot of work, but I tell you what you get out of it is really good stuff. You get great accolades. They aren't doing this, or they aren't doing that, or I don't like Joe. I think Joe's really, the wrong person for the company. You get everything, and you can then essentially take a look at it and say, okay, well, here's some of our problems. What do we need to do about it? And that's when you start to develop the long-range plan. And in this case, it was essentially reconstructing their brand, or at least getting their brand image into something that they really wanted, which was a new brand identity.
Yeah, so impressive. Just with our small agency, we, working on small research projects, we call maybe 10 people. So 300, that's amazing to be able to get that spread of data and everything. Okay, one of the campaigns I want to talk about because it's one of my favorite ones that you worked on was the dog waste cleanup campaign for Seattle. And it was super successful. And so I do have a little video that we can add to our thing right here. Um, it's a PSA, so I'll just play a few seconds of this.
We got the bag it up. I like the way you walk it. Don't do it. We got the bag it up. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Hey yo, let's keep this clean.
I love this because it's just so creative in the way that, taking the Blackstreet song No Diggity and then using it as a way for people to clean up their dog's poop to keep everything clean, keep Seattle clean. So talk to me a little bit about how this idea came to fruition and if research was a part of that, all the things.
Well, it was, and the clients were pretty diverse. There was the King County Storm, which was like 32 different municipal agencies around King County, and then there was another organization called the Puget Sound Partnership, and the entire campaign was surrounding rainwater runoff pollution, and dog poop just happened to be one of the key contributors to runoff waste that was going into Puget Sound. We developed the theme for this King County Storm, and the name of the campaign was Puget Sound. Puget Sound starts here, which essentially is you're polluting the sound, and here is you. Each individual has a responsibility, and one of them was a lot of pet waste was around a lot of the parks. Yeah. And so one of the big initiatives was to make sure that people knew that they had to pick up their pet waste if they were walking their dog. And then we provided all kinds of plastic bags and things that they could find or use or buy to do this. And it was a campaign, I think, that was pretty funny. We got in the first year of the campaign, maybe even a little bit less than that, we had 248,000 hits. And this was back in 90, well, no, it was in, I think it was 2012. In any case, it was a funny campaign, tongue-in-cheek, people liked it. And we said on our measurement and the outcome at the end was there was a 26% awareness just 18 months after the campaign was implemented. The website had 40,000 hits, seen by more than 88,000 people. And that's just on the website. And this is including fertilizer and chemical waste were also part of the whole program too. So there were a lot of angles, and dog duty was just one of them.
Yeah.
Our research really helped us identify what would motivate people to do this. And so we used a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff that got people talking and actually doing. So that was a fun project for us.
So fun. And I love the use of humor in there. I think that especially in environmental things where you're trying to get people to take a change in an action to be more environmentally friendly, oftentimes it can feel very heavy and sad and using those kinds of emotions. So I love using this humor to make people change their actions. So very cool. Getting a little bit back to some of our questions around, research. When we do research with clients, we focus on kind of the two areas that we've talked about, like understanding the customer and then also understanding the competition or the marketplace that you're in. Do you think that, and the outcome of that is, understanding the customer is kind of the persona, developing that persona, and then understanding the competition and the marketplace leads to some really good strategies, like high-level strategies. Do you think that one is more important than the other, customers versus understanding the marketplace?
No, actually, I think both are as important, as well as one other factor, and that's getting an accurate picture of yourself at your company. Essentially, it's one thing to have an accurate picture of who you're trying to influence, and it's even, as important to understand the competition. and what they're providing. But there's a lot of other things in the middle, and that's what do you want? What you want is X. And that's your identity, what you want people to associate with your brand and the product itself. So you've got to ask a lot of questions, and then you've got to say, well, when you're developing the plan, what will help us get from point X to point Y? Is there something in the mainstream today in terms of what people are aware of that we can use to launch a new program that will help people understand why our product is better, or our company is better in providing those kinds of products? It's back to the old, what is your unfair competitive advantage? And you need to roll on that one. That's really important.
Yeah, that's great. And you touched on this in the beginning during your intro. You talked a little bit about, having a third party do your research. So let's talk a little bit about why it's so important. Why is that a best practice to have a third party do your research?
Well, I think it gives you some, it gives you those feelings that this is not just a sales call. I mean, essentially, you want to have trust and confidence in who you're asking to during the research process. And the best way to do that is to hire some expert company that knows what they're doing, to develop the survey, to work with you, and then and this is especially true for qualitative conversations with customers, so that you are not the owner of the company or in the sales department or the marketing department. You have somebody else working on behalf of your company, wanting to search for the truth, or at least an honest opinion of what your company and or products are, how they're being viewed. So for me, third-party research is always the best. I mean, you could use your internal research group, but I think it's best for credibility to have a third party conduct the research.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting when we interview customers, when we're working with a client and interviewing their customers, you often find that when you present the research back to the company, they're really surprised about what the customers are saying. Not all of it. I think they hear a lot of it and it's confirming that, but there's certain things that they hear about what they're doing well or what they're not doing well that customer doesn't feel comfortable telling the company itself. They're more comfortable telling a third party, and there's some level of anonymity in their answers. So yeah, I think that's such a good point. One thing I wanted to talk about too is, the people doing that research really become amazing business strategists too for your company. When I first got into marketing, I thought that it was all about, social media and design and the creative. And as I got deeper and deeper, I really realized that strategic marketers are some of the best business strategists that I know. And the reason for that is because they have to do all of this research. They have to look at the business as a whole. And in order to position that brand and do a great marketing campaign, they have to use that research, that thought, that insight to be able to create those strategies. So that person that does your research is just a really great partner in helping you with helping you guide your business.
Well, I've worked with a number of local research companies and national ones as well. The thing that I always look for is, number one, who's going to be doing it and what do they know about me and my product? And are they familiar with architecture and engineering and construction, or are they just a research guy or woman?
Yeah.
And the more that they know about, especially in qualitative research, the more that they know about what the customer or the client is doing, the easier it is for them to talk to people. So when they call somebody up and somebody uses a lot of jargon within that industry, you can ask the first question, but essentially it gives you flexibility in asking additional follow-up questions that aren't necessarily on your questionnaire. That part of research is like 10 times even more provides more insight Then if you just had a questionnaire and you just address that. So being able to talk business while you're doing research and then probe further is really important. That's why I always look for people that know that industry before I even hire them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, to kind of wrap up some of the last questions, when do you think is the right time to invest in research for B2B companies or organizations?
Well, if you're going to launch a new product or refresh a new brand or something like that, I think you should do research before you even start on planning on what to do. Also, I think annual research is also a huge benefit. So at the end of each year, take a look at sort of how you've done, what your current brand image is, and how it stacks up against what we're seeking with regard to people's thoughts about your brand identity. So annual research it should just be an automatic budget number every year.
Yeah, that's great. And then I'd love to end by asking, what have been some of the biggest lessons learned for you after spending like 40 years in the industry?
Well, the biggest as far as I'm concerned, are detail, detail, detail. The more detail that you can put and the more research and strategic development and creative execution or tactical implementation, attention to detail delivers success. Attention to detail delivers success. It's really important. You just can't whip through something. You've got to pay attention, and you've got to also say, what we just thought of and executed isn't working. We need to go back to the drawing board and do some more thinking about this. Don't be embarrassed about making mistakes. I mean, everybody makes mistakes all the time, but the more detail that you put into whatever you're doing, the better the outcome, no doubt.
I love that. You definitely live and breathe that detail-oriented mentality. So, well, thank you so much for talking with us today, Bob. Thanks to everyone who could join us. And just to wrap it up, kind of my key takeaways is that research is really the foundation of good marketing and sales. So, if you're a company that is struggling right now with that aspect of your business, I'd really encourage you to kind of take a step back, spend some time on research so that you can then take your organization to the next level and figure out the right strategy for you. And I will put in the comments ways that you can connect with us and watch further webinars and videos from us and keep in touch. Thank you.